Welcome back, everyone, to our weekly video series. I'm Peyton, and I'm joined by the ladies, Corey and Yaila. And we have another great topic for you today, because what is one of the questions that you have probably been asking yourself over and over again lately? What do I believe right now? What is true? What is false? There is so much crazy information out there right now on all ends of the truth spectrum. And so today we're going to talk about what is truth and what is perception. And I think this is a great topic, and it has certainly never been more relevant than it is right now. So I'd like to start with you today, Corey. What does truth versus perception mean to you? How do those words work together? How do they differ? What do you have on that?
It's a great topic, and truth versus perception, and everyone has their own inner truth, right? So, I remember I went through this phase of trying to communicate with people, and I would say, "Oh, well, that's your truth. Well, my truth is blank, whatever it was," and so everybody does have their own truth. Perception is when it comes from an outside source. So we all have our own perceptions. You know, if you've ever been to therapy and family therapy, there could be five kids and they all explain the same scenario differently because they all perceived that situation differently. And so perception is generally when it comes from an outside source. Truth is what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you. Right now there's so much truth out there that it's gone along the guidelines of perception, and so um, you know we always say in our videos that our bodies don't lie to us, and so I know that um, I get a clear I get a clear knowing, like, oh yeah, I knew that, or my body feels calm when I hear a truth. Also, right now on the planet is we all the reason why this is all happening is so that we can start finding our own truth and to get to know ourselves and do that inner work to get to our truth. Because if you don't know yourself well and you haven't done inner work, and the energy work is so amazing because we do a lot of shadow work, and we have a video on shadow work. We have so many videos. So if I mention one thing, just look at some of our other videos that pertain to that as well. But the shadow work is, when we take a look at the stuff that is hard to look at. And by doing that, you get to your truth. So the body never lies. And if something or someone says something to you, or if you read something or you're on social media, and your body gives you a signal, whether it's fear, anxiety, that goes in the perception category. Somebody's perception. We ask, is that true for me or is that not true for me? But right now, there's so many quote unquote truths out that it can be really confusing. So that's why, doing the energy work and finding some classes to take so that you can get to your truth. So, what have you got?
I love that, Corey. We're, looking at, is it your truth? Is that my truth? Because, obviously we're using the word truth in there, but it really is about perception, right? When I think of perception, perception comes from kind of what we grew up believing, what maybe we were taught by family, community, whatever type of education we had. And we all internalize it in our own way based off of our way of comprehending all this information coming in various different ways. Our emotions connected to that, the beliefs we have about ourselves connected to outside people, situations, and ideas. So I feel like perception is probably the majority of what's out there. It's a perception of, a variance of somebody's belief system, their own truth, right? But when I think of truth, I call it truth with a capital T. So no matter what scenario, what side is sharing the information, it's going to be consistent no matter what. And it feels like there's very few things that are absolute truths out there, depending on where you're looking. So, I feel like just a rule of thumb is just wrap it all up in perception, because I feel like we're kind of running into a tricky place right now on the planet with society. We're kind of in dichotomy, right? There's good versus evil, there's happy versus sad, there's love versus hate. We're learning discernment through these polar opposites out there. That's kind of, in my opinion, how we expand our new desires. We expand the universe with these new desires. So we have these kind of extremes that we have, shades of gray in between each side of whatever topic is at hand. And so our perception is kind of where we fall along that scale of the dichotomy of the opposites. The truth, though, is, what is it? It's like there's very few things to me that is absolute truth. I think love is the end all be all, would be one of the things. Maybe check in for yourself to see what would be an absolute truth. No matter what, is it still true? So when you're looking at truth versus perception, we've said it so many different times, checking within, like what resonates with you? Does it align with the future that you're wanting to create? And looking at perception, because, again, it's not the end all be all if somebody doesn't agree with your truth. It's just their own perception of however they're interacting with the energy out there. And that's, when we start getting different ideas and we start getting different opinions and different perceptions, that's actually how we can open ourselves up to maybe discovering what the true truth actually is. And so I feel like, instead of villainizing everybody, trying to make people right or wrong, trying to feel like we have to be right all the time, we can't ever be wrong, it's just learning in the present moment. So I think when we start to give each other a little more slack and just chalk it up to mostly perception for majority of things, I think we can start actually finding more absolute truth. So that's just my 2 cents, or however minutes I just chatted on the topic. But how about you, Peyton? What would you like to add to truth versus perception?
I love this topic because this is something over the past 2 years I've been asking my guides all the time. How do I know what's true? Because the world got really super confusing over the past couple of years, right? And so I was asking the Pleiadians this question over and over again. And one thing that they always have for me the best way to look at things. And so one of the things that they explained to me is our whole way of looking at reality is changing. Being 3D beings, which we have been most of our life, we were very much in that duality, right? Like you said, Yaila, we wanted things to be black or white, right or wrong. And if one thing was right, anything that didn't match that had to be wrong. That's just how 3D works, how our 3D minds tend to operate. And what the Pleiadians were explaining to me is that we're moving out of that entire way of thinking. And as we become multidimensional, multiple things that are inconsistent can all be true. And just because one thing is true, it doesn't make something that's different wrong. And so the way they explain this is there are infinite realities. So every option exists in this now moment. And so when you take that and kind of wrap your brain around it, anything can be true because it exists somewhere in the universe, just at a different radio station, a different frequency. And so the way the Pleiadians kind of have summed this up for me is they said, Peyton, there are about 4 universal laws. Everything else is perception. They said some of the things that you humans just will tie yourselves to and double down on when looked at from higher dimension, broader wisdom are completely backwards. And so even things like our laws of physics, that most of us would say, this is how the world works, this is what we have been taught. When you look at it from the perspective of fifth dimension or higher, even our physics goes out the window. So all of a sudden, like you guys said, there's very little that's true. And so the way that I am kind of looking at things now is there is no truth. Everything is perception, because it is all through the window of the consciousness that is viewing that situation. And our whole background comes into color that, what we believe, what we have been programmed with. So each of us are going to have a different perception. And I found that the more I kind of embrace that, I get a lot less judgmental with views that don't match my own, because then I'm not making someone right or wrong. I'm like, they're just looking through a different window, and that's totally fine. And once we do that, we start to have a lot more compassion. Like I have found my compassion kind of expanding as I come back to, instead of automatically disagreeing with someone, which used to be my go-to point, especially that lawyer energy creeps in every once in a while, that I know more than you, or I know more than this person. But when you view it as just someone else's perception, their vantage point, the window they're looking through, we don't make them wrong, and we start to move into fifth dimensional thinking. So to me, that's a great way for us to look at truth versus perception, if we back away from that word truth a little bit, because our 3D minds kind of want to cling to our old way of doing business, which is to make one thing right and something else wrong. So for me, there is no truth anymore. Everything is perception, unless it's a universal law, which we're almost never talking about that. So I thought that was a great way that the guides have been helping me kind of figure out, because it all comes back to, we're trying to figure out what to believe. What is our truth? How do we move forward? How do we stay educated and connected without buying into something that's going to disempower us? So that's kind of how I am looking at it right now. And I completely second what you guys say. And I know we say this all the time. Really, you just need to listen to your body. Your body will tell you what is true for you in this moment, and be prepared for that to change. For me, I may say something totally different a week from now, and I'm starting to be okay with that because it's just perception. And as our consciousness grows, our perception is going to change. So that's what I'm thinking. Any other thoughts on this, girls? I think this is a great topic for people right now, because people don't know what to believe. Any other words of wisdom?
The only other thing I would add into it is looking at, different conversations and different truths that come out there. If someone's trying to enroll you to believe their side, you might want to ask why. What is the angle? What is the necessary reason why they're trying to enroll you to believe what they believe? Is it to have you react in a certain way? And this is, very prevalent in the world around us, and kind of, again, those perceptions that we are seeing, whether it's social media, the media, family, friends, jobs, things like that. Look at the reason why they're trying to enroll you into a certain belief. And that's where you can really check and see, like Peyton and Corey were saying, how does that feel for you? Does that feel like the future that you are wanting to align yourself towards? Not that are they good or bad, or is that really where you want to send your focus? Because this is the energy that we're stepping into. We have a lot more say and a lot more power in the energy in our space. And it's really just catching what stories we are starting to attach ourselves to or not. So are we enrolling ourselves to a future that we want? Or are we enrolling ourselves into a future that we don't want? Kind of like Peyton shares with, what timeline are you wanting to put yourself on? Because there's endless options. That's what I would add.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey, any last thoughts? No, you're good. Well, I think that was a great starting point, guys. I think the more we can help people embrace their inner wisdom, we'll start to have a more compassionate world. So everything is your choice. Your reality is whatever you choose it to be. So whatever you adopt as your truth, that's what you pull toward you. So you get to choose though. So don't give that power away. That's how we give our power away, is letting someone else tell us what reality is. So hope this helps you guys figure out a little bit the difference between what is actually truth versus what is just your perception. And as always, we appreciate your likes, your shares, your follows. You can find all of our links down below. Reach out to us anytime. Let us know if there is a topic you are dying to hear about. And check out our library. It's gotten pretty extensive. And if we ever mention a concept in one of these videos that you don't quite understand, scroll back through our library. We have probably done a whole video on that topic. And if not, let us know and we will correct that. So we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye.